Welcome back to Reflect Politics. My name is Brendan Plank. Republican Wyoming Representative Harriet Hageman held a town hall recently, and things got a little dicey when a Republican, a former military officer, stood up and demanded answers about the fraud that Elon Musk and Doge are allegedly finding inside the federal government.
I have a specific question here, and just to give you a little reference, I'm a retired military officer. At 18, I rose my hand to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And at that time, well, I still am. I am still a Republican. I am, bless his heart, a Simpson Republican that believes in working together across the aisle. And my question, having looked at Musk's Doge, whatever website, you are a lawyer. Where is this fraud? Who? What company? What organization?
Post it.
What personnel?
I'll just start reading some of
Are
it.
we going after?
I'll just start reading some of it. I'll just start reading it right now if you'd like me to. I'll just focus on USAID spending right here.
I didn't say spending. I said actual fraud.
This is what it is. This is the spending associated with the fraud. This is the fraud. Spending is the fraud.
No.
Spending you don't like.
Yes, it is.
We go after specific companies or specific personnel that are committing fraud.
500,000. This is fraud.
No.
This is fraudulent spending.
No, it may be abusive spending, but it's not.
Well, and what I said was waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yes, but
Waste, fraud, and
saying
abuse.
Fraud. And
Waste,
then
fraud,
put
and
that
abuse.
aside.
So let me give you an example.
No, let me also finish
Let
my
me-
question. Efficiency is an actual calculable number. I got my master's in ag econ. You can actually calculate efficiency. Just because you're firing somebody doesn't mean that's efficient, because that job is still there. It still needs to be done.
Well, and we will eliminate some of those jobs as well. Those jobs will be being eliminated. They don't need to be done. They don't need to be
safer, and they help the military all the time.
Actually, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they
I
don't.
know the personnel that were there fighting
When?
the whole line.
When?
Back when Africa.
30 years ago?
No.
Ebola 30 years ago?
No, it's still coming up.
So let me just give you an idea of what I mean by fraud, okay? This is an example that I've been using, and USAID came out in defense of this particular expense, saying with that particular contract, we were lied to about what the contract was about. But this is one of the line items that was in the USAID funding. $500,000 to advance atheism in Nepal, a nation that is Buddhist. Now tell me why we would sign a contract of $500,000 to advance atheism in Nepal. Think about Nepal. What do you think? Do you think $500,000 is a lot of money in Nepal? It's a lot of money, isn't it? That's an astronomical amount of money. How much money do you think actually went to advancing atheism in Nepal? Or how many NGOs got wealthy off of that $500,000? Here's another example. USAID assistance was used to finance Hamas's campaign against Israel. Aid is being used to continue war economies in Afghanistan, Yemen, and Syria. $697 million is annually given, with the addition of cash funds ranging from 40 to 80 million to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and ISIS Khorasan terrorist training camps. $840 million over 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. So here's what I'll say as a citizen of this United States who actually pays taxes. Every single one of those programs are fraudulent because they do nothing to advance the policies of the United States. taxpayer, every single one of those payments were fraudulent. Next question, right up here. Right up here.
All you people that are sitting here and booing and doing all this crap, do you really want to pay for transgender surgeries on
Yes, yes, I
You've really got to give this woman credit for standing up in a room full of MAGA Republicans in Wyoming. Remember, Wyoming is one of the reddest states in the country. A lot of rural, kind of misinformed, uninformed voters who don't know what's going on outside of their state, let alone the country. And they only get their media and information from Donald Trump, right-wing outlets, Fox News, and people like Harriet Hageman. That is a big problem we have in the United States, especially with rural voters. And I think this clip was very indicative of that. It was also indicative of the fact that we do have Republicans who are still critical of this government of Donald Trump, of Elon Musk, and they're not buying the BS. So this woman deserves to be recognized as courageous for not only standing up and demanding these answers, but doing it as they groan and as they try to shout over her. She persisted, and she deserves credit for that. Now let's talk about Harriet Hageman's response. She's got the playbook, right? The Trump playbook. She's got the strategy down. It's, well, I'm just going to label and list a few controversial things that USAID spent money on, and that's really going to play up to my MAGA base of Wyoming rural voters. So she talks about atheism in Nepal and spending on Hamas, but she doesn't get specific. She just asks the question, well, do we know if an NGO got rich off the $500,000 spent in Nepal, which is a tiny fraction of spending in USAID and the federal government alone? So can she be specific about who committed the fraud, what company committed the fraud, like this former military officer, this Republican, was demanding she do? Of course not. Of course not. And that's why Hageman, House Republicans, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, Elon Musk are in trouble with some Republican voters, because it's all just kind of a much ado about nothing here. And they're using spending by USAID to try to score political points, and not really to try to make the government efficient, as this voter pointed out. Like, show us how you're being efficient. Instead of just firing a bunch of people, how about you show us? And of course, they can't. They can only just beg questions like, well, are NGOs getting rich off this? Now, there was a point when one of the audience members screamed out to Harriet Hageman that it's just the spending they don't like. And that's exactly what's going on here. But it's a little worse than that. And I kind of referenced it to, Republicans and Musk and Trump trying to find spending that's controversial. They're trying to find spending that's controversial for their mega kind of ignorant base, to rile them up and to spread fear and division, to make it seem as though this federal government is run by this deep state and the Democrats, and they're all just out there trying to spend money on atheism, Hamas, and trans rights. And so the question that arises when we're seeing a divide growing in the Republican Party between diehard MAGA Republicans and Republicans who are still able to conduct critical thinking and demand answers and question all the lies coming from Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge, is, will Donald Trump's strategy of fear and division and lying continue to remain supreme in the Republican Party? Will enough Republicans kind of divide off, split off to vote for Democrats in this next midterm election? Or will Donald Trump's politics of fear hold them and convince them that voting for a Democrat would be worse than voting for a MAGA Republican? So let me know what your thoughts were. So let me know what your thoughts are on this heroic Republican woman from Wyoming demanding answers from Harriet Hageman, her representative, and Harriet Hageman utterly failing to provide anything specific when it comes to the fraud that Doge is allegedly finding. Leave your comments, your reflections in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics so that you get my future videos delivered straight to you. Again, my name is Brendan Plank. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.